record. Okay, it's great to see you all. I'm going to start by reading you a poem. And this is a poem by Hafiz, who is one of my favorite poets. He was a great Sufi master. And he writes love poems to God. And in this poem, he refers to God as the friend. So capital F. So just so you know, when I say the friend in Hafiz's language, it means God. So it's this poem is called If You Don't Stop That. I used to live in a cramped house with confusion and pain. But then I met the friend and started getting drunk and singing all night. Confusion and pain started acting nasty, making threats with talk like this. If you don't stop that, all that fun, we're leaving. So have fun. All right, sit well. Sit back in your chairs, supported. And then take your hands together, interlace your fingers, and place your palms on your chest. And this is the Vajra Pradhana Mudra, the Unshakable Trust Mudra. And close your eyes and begin to settle in. And just feel the beating of your heart, the rise and fall of your breath. Tuning in with your own bodily sensations. Noticing, bringing your awareness to the forefront. And then go ahead and float your eyes open. And sweep your arms out and up and take a deep breath. Connect your palms, bring them right down to the center of your chest as you exhale. And again, breathe in, sweep it up. Connecting your palms, drawing it right down to heart center. One more time, breathe in, sweep it up. And bring it down. Interlace your fingers. This time, press your palms forward and sweep them up, and maybe even look up a little bit, finding a gentle back bend. And then press your hands forward, rounding through your spine, forward bend. Again, breathe in, lift up. Breathe out, press it forward. And then release your arms and roll up and sit tall. We're going to do that again. And this time I'm going to invite you to see if you can notice the movement of your pelvis, right? Your hips as you do the back bending and forward bending action. If you're sitting on a harder surface, you might be able to feel your sitting bones, the sticky outy bones at the bottom of the pelvis, as they sort of shift forward and back as you move. I'll show you the sitting bones on Gus here in a minute, but I'm just going to invite you to try to feel them. If you want to kind of shift side to side, rock, see if you can feel the bony points that are connecting straight down into your chair. Interlace your fingers. Press your hands forward and up, take a little back bend, and maybe you can feel how your sitting bones jut back now behind you as you come into a little back bend. And then rounding through your spine, press your hands forward, tuck your tailbone towards your knees, curling in, and maybe now you can feel how your sitting bones have moved forward towards your knees. And then come right back up and sit tall. See if you can feel them straight down underneath you so that your pelvis is in neutral. Sweep your arms out and up overhead. Take a side bend to the right, hold your chair for support, bend over. Maybe look down at the ground, turn your gaze forward, look up a little bit, only as far as is comfortable, and do that a few times, just rotating your neck. And come back up. Pause here. Imagine a little string attached to the very, very top of your head, and someone's holding that string like a marionette, and they're moving it around in a tiny little circle, right? So you're gonna make little, teeny, tiny circles with your head, just rolling it around, and then make the circles a little bit bigger, and a little bit bigger, until you're in a full neck roll, head circle thing. And then come back to stillness and start your little tiny circles in the other direction. And make them bigger and bigger. And back to center. Sweep your arms out and up overhead. Take a nice deep breath. Side bend to the left. Rotate your head here, your neck rather, looking down and looking up. This is a little bit different action than we just did. So this is just rotation at the neck. And come right back up. Sweep your arms out and up. Release them down. Take a turn to the right, but do it this way. Move slowly, starting from the top of the spine to the bottom. So you're gonna start from your head and your neck, turning to the right. And then let your upper back follow, your middle back follow, and all the way down into your low back. You might even find that your left hip moves forward in space on the chair and your right hip draws back as you're turning. So your pelvis is following the turn of the spine. And then come back to center. Same thing, other direction. Start from the top of the spine, move down. So first it's the neck, then it's the upper back and the middle back, and then eventually your low back follows, dragging your pelvis along with it. And come back to center. Take a deep breath, sweep your arms high. Release your hands down. Now take your hands to your hips and have your fingers in the front and your thumbs reaching around back. So it doesn't matter where your thumbs go. I want you to see if you can feel, and you might need to kind of dig in there, especially as we're sitting, the flesh gets in the way, but see if you can feel the little sticky outy points at the front of your pelvis. So I'll show you on Gus here. They are these points right here on either side. You might have to dig in to get deep enough into the flesh, but see if you can feel them. If you can't, don't worry about it. Just do your best. Put Gus back on his stand here. Okay. And then with your hands on those hip points, see if you can tilt your pelvis forward and back. So forward would be as if you were spilling water out the front of the bowl. So tipping it towards your knees, the front of the pelvis towards your knees. Those sticky outy points reaching down towards the front of your thighs and your knees. That's a forward tilt. And then come back to neutral. And then reverse tilt, like your tailbone's moving towards your knees and those sticky outy points are now pulling up towards your chest. Reverse tilt. Okay? So we're gonna move back and forth between those two actions. I'm gonna turn sideways to see if maybe I can show that in my own body. Perhaps it might be useful. I'm gonna just keep my arms up to keep them out of the way. So forward tilt, I'm tipping water out the front of the bowl, coming back to neutral, reverse tilt, tipping water out the back of the bowl, and back to neutral. Try to make the movement happen from the pelvis and not from your upper back, right? Not from moving the whole spine. Your spine will move. It's going to move with the action, but try not to make it about the spine. Try to make it about moving just through the pelvis, tipping forward, tipping back. Just feel that action. And then come back to neutral and tip onto your right sit bone. So you're going to feel more weight on the right sit bone. Come back to center, tip your weight to your left sit bone, come back to center, tip your weight to your right sit bone, lift your left leg. Put it back down, other side. Tip to the left, lift your right leg, put it down. Shake everything out. Roll through your shoulders. Take them forward. And roll through your wrists. Go both directions. Open and close the fingers a few times. Hold your chair. Roll your ankles around. Go the other way. Maybe even flutter your legs a little, warming up your knees, your thigh muscles, and then put them back down. Pick up your right leg, hold at the front of the shin, okay? So if it comes up higher, pick it up higher. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. And see if you can pick it up enough to notice that this brings your pelvis, particularly the right side of your pelvis, into a backward tilt, a little bit pouring the water out the back of the bowl, just a little bit. Put it back down, other side, pick it up, and put it down. So you can see how the pelvis kind of shifts as you move the legs up and down. Okay, so we're going to come to stand and we're going to work on finding a sit bone to heel connection as we move through different postures. So I'm going to bring Gus back here again so that I can show you what the sit bones are. If I ask people to touch their sit bones, they usually put their hands somewhere up here. But your sit bones are way down, deep underneath. They are the very bottom. So here's the front of Gus's pelvis. Here's the back. Here's his sacrum and his tailbones down here. So the sit bones, turning back to the front here, let me go this way. The sit bones are these little points at the very bottom of the pelvis. Okay, these sticky outy points down here at the bottom. You can see that they're pretty prominent and we have a lot of flesh in the way, but you can sometimes feel them if you're sitting on a hard surface as they press down. So those are your sit bones, okay? And you can also see that they're pretty narrow in there, right? They're a lot narrower than what you think of as hip width, hip distance. Okay, so come on up to stand and stand behind your chair. I'm gonna turn mine sideways. And we're going to start by simply finding mountain pose, Tadasana, standing well, and see if you can have your heels underneath your sit bones. Imagine it. You may not be able to actually feel it, but sort of imagine that you could sense that, the sit bone to heel connection as you're standing in mountain pose. Then bend your knees and sit into chair pose. It doesn't have to be very far down, just a little bit. And imagine your sit bones connecting to your heels. Sit bone to heel connection here. Stand tall. We're going to work on that pelvic tilt here, standing first. So soften your knees, just make sure they're not locked out at all. Little tiny bit of bend in your knees as you stand. You can keep your hands on your chair or on your hips, or one and one, right? One hand on the chair, one hand on your hips. It's totally up to you. And again, try not to move so much from the rest of your spine. Try to isolate it in your pelvis. Tip the pelvis forward. That means tip the water out the front of the bowl. Tip it forward. Bring it back to neutral. Tip it back like you're tucking your tail, lengthening, flattening the low back. That's a reverse tilt. And back to neutral. Forward tilt, reverse tilt. Okay, find chair pose again. Sit down. Now we're going to work on it here. Try a forward tilt. That means your tushy's going to stick out farther behind you. You're going to pour water towards your knees. Come back to neutral. Reverse tilt. You're pouring water out the back of the bowl. Come back to neutral. Stand tall. Give your thighs a break. Take a breath. Let it go. Okay, now come to stand on the right side of your chair. And imagine a strong sit bone to heel connection on the right leg. Sit bone to heel connection on the right leg, and then lift your left heel. Now, if you cock your hip out to the right, your sit bone is now facing to the right. It's not facing down towards your heel, right? So you want to find that sit bone to heel connection. Lift your left leg. Sit bone to heel on the right. Place it down. Press into your left leg. See if you can find that same connection. Sit bone to heel. Again, if you're cocking out, your sit bone is pointing to the left. It's not pointing towards your heel. So sit bone to heel, and then lift your right leg. And put it down. Now turn towards the seat of the chair. Once again, find sit bone to heel connection on the right leg. Lift your left leg and step on the seat of the chair. Reconnect with that feeling. Sit bone to heel on the right. It gives you a really nice, stable foundation. It helps with balance. And then, can you imagine a sit bone to heel connection on the left leg, the one that's up on the chair? Sit bone connecting down to that heel. If you can feel sit bone to heel on both legs, it helps you find neutral in the pelvis and gives you stability and balance. Okay, step off of it. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So press down, sit bone to heel on the left leg, pick up the right leg, step on the chair. Really feel that connection if you can. Imagine it. Sit bone to heel, standing leg. Sit bone to heel, lifted leg. Eventually, in a standing posture, you might be able to feel the sit bone to heel connection without even having your foot on a chair. I'm not going to ask you guys to do this, but I'm simply showing you that if you get those connections, your balance is pretty much assured. Okay, step down, just give it a little wiggle, a little shake. Okay. Now, stand behind your chair and step your left leg back about, 2.5 feet or so, and bend through your right knee. Okay, it doesn't need to be a super deep bend. You can come closer to your chair, whatever's comfortable for you in terms of length and width of stance. I don't care, it doesn't make any difference. But as you're in this posture, to find a neutral pelvis and find your balance, thinking of that sit bone to heel connection is really useful. So my back leg, that sit bone is drawing back towards that back heel. My front leg, it's drawing forward towards the front heel. That's helping me find a neutral in my pelvis. And it feels really stable. Step forward, give it a little wiggle, and switch sides. Step back with the other leg, find the stance that works for you, and then imagine that sit bone to heel connection. And step forward and stand tall. Once again, step back with the left leg, the right leg in front. Imagine that connection. And then coming back to that idea of tipping the bowl of the pelvis forward and back, maybe you could imagine the back leg is sort of, that hip is sort of tipping forward as if you're pouring water out the front of that bowl. A little bit of forward tip there. That might help you also find that sit bone to heel connection. And step forward, step back with the opposite leg, and think about that same thing. Imagining the tipping of the bowl to help you find the sit bone heel connection on the back leg. And step forward, give it a little wiggle. Now we're going to challenge the balance a little bit further. So that was a warrior one posture. Now we're going to come into a high lunge posture. Very similar shape in the legs, but instead of having the back heel planted, the back heel is lifted. So you're just on the ball of the back foot and the front knee is bent. So it's a little bit more challenging for the balance. So if you can, really think about that sit bone to heel connection. That may help you find a more balanced sensation in this posture. Okay, so think about each side reaching to its own heel. So the sit bones, you're imagining them moving in opposite directions. All right, whether they can or not is another question, but we're imagining them moving in opposite directions. Step forward. And then step back with the opposite leg, heel lifted, you're on the ball of the foot, front knee is bent. Imagining them moving in opposite directions. This one's moving forward, the back one's moving back. And that's helping you find center. Step forward, give it a little wiggle, stand tall. Okay. Walk your body or your chair so that you are facing the seat of the chair, okay? So you can turn your chair, you can turn your body, doesn't matter. And then bend your knees and place your hands on the seat of the chair. Step your left leg back and your right leg a little further forward. Now both knees might be bent and that is totally fine. If you have the flexibility to straighten your legs, do that, but don't push it. If it's not, if that's not where you're going, that's okay. It doesn't matter. You can have bent knees for sure. And think about that sit bone to heel connection here. Sit bone to heel reaching forward, sit bone to heel reaching backward. Step forward, bend your knees, and stand up. And then we'll do the other side. Bend your knees, hands to the chair, step back with the opposite leg. And again, you might have both knees bent, you might have them straight, doesn't matter. Whatever, degree of flexibility you have, that's what you'll work with. But wherever you are, think sit bone to heel. Give yourself that feeling of neutral pelvis. And step forward and stand up. Probably the back of the chair is going to be the right height for this next posture. If you are a more flexible person and you know that, you could keep your hands on the seat of the chair. But I'm going to show it on the back of the chair. It's a little bit less demanding and a little more accessible. So hands on the seat of the chair, step your left leg back. So again, you're in that sort of little bit of separated position, and the feet are fairly wide, right? They have maybe a foot distance between them, left and right, so that you're not on a tightrope, you're on railroad tracks. Okay, think sit bone to heel, and then keep the back foot, which for me is my left foot, that hand is going to stay on the chair. The front foot hand is going to come to your collarbone on the same side. Now start to turn your body in the direction of the front leg. You can let the back hip drop, but don't lose the sit bone to heel connection. In other words, you don't, if I'm turning to my right, I don't want my right hip jutting out to the right, because then my sit bone is not facing towards my heel. I'm going to try to keep that sit bone to heel connection as I twist my spine. And then if you want, you can leave your hand here, or you can lift it in line with your collarbone. Work on the stability in the legs and the pelvis. And come back and step forward and relax. Take a breath. Okay, opposite leg. So now it's my left leg in front, my right leg is stepping back. I'm thinking about the sit bone to heel connection, front and back. I have my right hand on the chair, my left hand comes to my collarbone. As I begin to rotate my spine, turning towards the left, I don't want to jut my left hip out to the left, because now my sit bone is facing towards the camera instead of facing down towards my heel, right? So you really want to keep the sit bone to heel connection as you turn. Now you can let that back hip drop. You can let the front hip move back in space, but you want to keep the connection so that it's not jutting out. All right, and then again, you can keep your hand here, or you can open it in line with the collarbone. So this is revolved triangle pose. It's a fairly difficult posture because it requires super stable legs. It requires rotation in the spine, a stretch in the shoulders, and our upper backs are working. And then release your hand and step forward and relax, stand tall. Okay. Once again, either turn your chair or move your body so that you are facing the seat of your chair. You're going to step one foot onto the chair. So if you need to hold the back of the chair to do that and lift it up, that's fine. If you can just step right onto it, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Okay. So step one foot onto the seat of your chair, and then push strongly through your feet so that you can stand tall. Okay. If you need to hold the chair, that's fine. But if you don't need to, try not to. Try to stand tall, push through both feet so you feel stable. Think about that sit bone to heel connection. That's going to help you find balance and stability. Right down through that standing leg and forward and down through the lifted leg. Now, take your hands to your shoulders and start to turn in the direction of the lifted leg. So you're twisting. Keep thinking sit bone to heel. Press down. You can let that back leg, the standing leg hip, move forward. You can let the other hip move back, but don't lose the sit bone to heel connection. Come back to center. Hold the chair if you like. Step out of it. Relax a moment. And then step the opposite foot to the chair. Okay, find your balance. Feel the connection, then stand tall. Fingertips to shoulders. Take the time to really think about those connections. Feel your heel on the chair and imagine that energy from that sit bone right underneath you moving down through the leg bones right into the heel. You could think of it even as a diagonal line straight to the heel. Standing leg straight down into that heel. Begin to turn towards the lifted leg. Keep that connection. That's going to help you stay stable. It's also going to keep your knee from wanging in or out. If you're really thinking sit bone to heel, the legs are going to stay firm as you turn your body around your legs. So your pelvis can turn. It doesn't have to stay static, but your legs are staying pretty stable. Come back to center and step off of it. Stand tall, relax. Take a deep breath and let it go. All right. Come back to sit in your chair. And then turn your right foot out to the right. You can either keep your left knee facing directly forward, or you could step the foot back a little bit. If that's too much on your hip joint, just keep it right at the midline, okay? So if you have flexible hips and you can step it a little wider, fine, but don't feel that you have to, all right? Open out your arms into a T, and then start to rotate your body a little bit towards the right leg. So we're in sort of a warrior 1.5 position, almost to warrior 2, but not quite. And then release it. Keep your legs as they are. Open out your arms. This time you're going to rotate your torso to face directly front. So you're turning away from your right leg. A little rotation in the spine to bring it to center. And release that. Bring the right leg in. Step the left leg out. Again, you can leave that leg right facing center, or you can move it out a little bit. I'll keep it facing center for now. Open out your arms, rotate your spine a little towards your left leg. So you're in that warrior 1.5. And then rotate it towards what was center, away from the inner left leg. And come back to center. Take a little wiggle of the shoulders, forward and back. Lift your arms up, take a nice full breath. Hands to your knees, bow forward. Drop your head, let your shoulders relax, let your chin drop. And roll back up to sit tall. Hands interlaced behind your head. Hold the back of your head. Pull your elbows back in space and lift up through your breastbone. Even imagine that you could pick your rib cage up off of your hips. Can you do that? Can you pick it up? Pick it up off of your hips. Find a little more space. Press through your feet. Press through your sit bones. Can you find that sit bone to heel connection here in a seated position? Feel your sit bones connecting down and reaching forward and down towards your heels, and then tip to the right. Really connect through the left sit bone and the left heel. It's going to help you be stable. Come back to center, tip left. Connect through right sit bone and right heel, because your weight's automatically going to go to the left one since you're tipping left. So fight back, counteract, find some stability. And come back up, release your arms, take a breath. Let it go. Once again, interlace your hands back behind your head, elbows wide, lift the rib cage off the hips, take a turn to the right. Try to stay stable through sit bones and through heels. Turn back to center, turn to the left. Turn back to center, release your hands, relax your arms. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Okay, sit back a little bit so that most of your thighs is supported by the chair, most of your thighs. Some of it towards the knee might not be on the chair, but I want you to have most of the upper legs supported by the chair, and then hold the sides of the chair. Now press and step nice and strongly into your left hip, sit bone, the foot, finding that connection. That's going to be your imaginary standing leg. Now, extend your right foot forward. Think about sit bone to heel connection on the lifted leg as well. The standing leg and the lifted leg. Sit bone to heel. Release it. Switch sides. Your right leg is your standing leg now. Press down. Left leg extends, press it forward, sit bone to heel. And release it. Give your legs a little wiggle. Okay, step your feet a little wider than the width of the chair. And then just kind of sway a little side to side. Maybe make some circles. Just loosen up your hips a little bit, moving around them with your torso. And then pick up with your hand underneath the back of your right knee, pick up your right leg and circle it around just a little. In one direction, the other direction, put it down. Left leg, pick it up, circle it around. Go the other way. And put it down. Draw them back together. Sit all the way back in your chair. Support yourself. Make sure you feel the seat and the chair back. Your upper back doesn't have to be all the way back against it. Depends on the angle of your chair, but I want you to feel supported through your hips and your low back so that you can relax a little bit. Soften the shoulders. Just let them drape. Take a deep breath. And let it go. We're going to end before rest pose with a breath technique, a pranayama technique that I call box breath. And it is a practice of finding equal length through inhale, retention on the inhale, exhale, retention after the exhale, and back to inhale. So if you think of it like a box, it might be easier. We're going to do 4 counts. So it'll be like this. The inhale will draw up one side, then we'll hold for 4 counts. The exhale goes down the other side, hold it out for 4 counts, and then you breathe in again and hold and out and hold. Okay, so that's the pattern. I will give you the counts. We'll begin by taking a deep breath in, a complete breath out. Try to breathe through your nose and inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath out 2, 3, 4. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. One more time. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. And hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe naturally. Relax. Let your breath come back to its natural rhythm. And then close your eyes. And soften everywhere that you can. Begin to release any gripping or tension that isn't necessary. There may be holding that is necessary, right? We're not lying down on our beds, we're sitting up in a chair. So some holding might be necessary. But relax where you can. Relax what you can. The fronts of the hips maybe, the shoulders certainly. The muscles of your face, your jaw, your tongue, your lips. The skin of your forehead. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath if it wanders. If it wanders. And then let the next breath you take be a deep, full breath. And release it out. Interlace your fingers again with your palms flat against your chest in that Vajrapradana Mudra, the unshakable trust. Feeling your breath, feeling your heartbeat. And go ahead and open your eyes. And bring your hands back into Anjali Mudra, that gift or offering posture for the hands. We'll just take a little bow to each other. Namaste. Thank you.